5:44 to order. And as I do that, I'll just make a reminder, this is a public meeting, but not a public forum. The board will conduct our business. And with no one on the agenda as a presentation outside of the board information, then you are free to contact us through any means, email, telephone, after the fact. So with that, I will turn to the clerk and hope for a quorum.
Kirby Anderson.
Here.
Natalie Knudsen. Here. Melanie Cole.
Present.
Matthew Lemke.
Here.
Missy Hermes present. Stephen Vigasa. Here. We have a quorum.
Thank you. Is there a motion to approve the agenda? All right, thank you, Stephen. Is there a second?
Second.
Any discussion on the agenda? Hearing nothing, all in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The agenda is approved. And I'll move on to the next item, which is a resolution on acknowledgements. So we want to thank Ken and Meg Garahan for their donation of a trombone to the Kennedy Secondary School Music Department. Also, thank you to the Fergus Falls 544 Education Foundation. They generously awarded $28,000 in grants to the Fergus Falls School District. So thank you, donations large and small. We appreciate the support. We have several reports tonight. We'll begin with our food service update.
Madam Chair, we need to take a roll call.
Okay. Oh, I am sorry. I'm doing that thing where I'm going just too efficiently. So anyway, I will offer that resolution and move for its adoption. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion on the resolution? All right. And clerk, please, for the roll.
Natalie Knudsen. Yes. Melanie Cole.
Yes.
Matthew Lemke.
Yes.
Missy Hermes, yes. Stephen Vigasa.
Yes.
Kirby Anderson.
Yes.
The resolution is adopted.
Thank you. All right, now we'll move on to reports and correspondence. Lance Wells is our food service director, and we'll look forward to an update. Good evening, Lance.
That was scary. Hope I didn't do that. So I had this glitzy presentation, sorry for everyone behind me. When we were in the community room, I figured I could wrangle that TV, but then it got a little more complicated with this. So I'm kind of going old school, which is appropriate for me because that's kind of how I roll. Every morning I start my day with two kinds of news. One of it is the news headlines, and one of it is tips for school meals that rock. I will save the tips for school meals that rock. Typically the headlines I read regarding school district food service is school districts crippled by food supply shortages could have to return to remote learning. In Detroit, Metro Detroit school districts struggle to feed students amid global supply chain shortage. Food fight, national supply chain issues, food shortages hit local schools. Supply chain issues looming for school meal programs this fall. School cafeterias hurting from supply chain issues and price hikes. Food shortages, supply chain delays put strain on school menus. That was Minneapolis TV. So these are, and there's more. I have pages and pages of them because they're just never ending. So that's a bit of the news that I read every day. I kind of try to avoid all the depressing news. So the other news that I read is Tips for School Meals that Rock. That's a Facebook page that child nutrition professionals nationwide, including vendors, directors, administrators, school board members, all follow this just to keep their finger on the pulse of what school is. And I wish you could see these wonderful pictures, but this is a story, so I'm going to tell you how they look. My first one is from Tracy, and I don't remember where Tracy's from, but she's hugging food trays. My coworker shares my happiness today. I stood there and cried with our delivery guy when he brought these in today in North Carolina. Here's a gal, feels like Christmas. She's standing there with a giant stack of boxes. And they're just trays. They're just cafeteria trays, disposable trays. And they go on. When your amazing director brings you a cart filled with goodies, you're thinking, ooh, cinnamon rolls, caramel rolls. No, portion cups and sport kits. One of our servers who was happy to get their trays, they had to pose. So there's pages and pages and pages of school district employees that are hugging, holding, and posing with food and paper and products that they never thought that they would see. And so that's kind of the two parts of news that I get every day. So lucky or smart, we started the Roosevelt freezer back up backup plan about 2 summers ago. It had been left abandoned after we moved to Kennedy. And when we went into COVID, that was a really great thing to have because we kept getting commodities, but we didn't have anywhere to use them. So we had a place to store and we didn't have to pay somebody. Currently, we use that space to stockpile food. All of these headlines that you are seeing here, these are not a crisis for our district, not at this point, and not so far this school year. They are inconveniences, and it's because we put in place steps to try to mitigate some of the impact that those have. Using real trays and silverware has saved us, sort of. Both are items that we lose every day. Silverware and trays get thrown away regularly, and they are super hard to replace right now. If I had to buy new cafeteria trays, like real ones, they would be 6 months before we would expect to see those. The Kennedy Food Court, the number of choices that we have there has saved us. It would be nearly impossible to consistently find product in the numbers that we would need if we had fewer choices. And I'm sorry if my mask is a little bit, it's easy to find 35 of this, 40 of this, 60 of this, 70 of this to buy, but to find 1,200 of something is hard. To find 900 of something is hard if you don't have 6 to 8 weeks to be finding that. So that's been a grateful thing. Because of these two things, we've been able, the freezer and the food court, we've been able to stay ahead of the shortages without significant substitutions. We've added a breakfast for lunch format in the food court that serves 60 to 70 kids a day. It's always surprising to us how many kids leave breakfast for lunch. We've cleared out the Roosevelt kitchen storeroom so we can store more backup dry food and paper goods so that we don't end up being in these headlines or having our employees hugging sport kits when they come in. We have had, since the first week in September, all of October's food on hand in our freezer. We are currently right now bringing in the last of the main December food on Friday. So all of November's is pretty much all sitting there, and now we're bringing in December. And that is so that when I do get shorted something, I have weeks and weeks and weeks to figure out what to do. Both our primary supplier Cashway and our secondary supplier US Foods have been great working with us to make sure we have what we need and the time that we need it. Mostly behind, we are in receiving commodities, but that should catch up soon. Our provider is working on getting more trucks and truckers to get that hauling. Really, the only shortages for us right now are, it's kind of hard to find whole grain croutons every time, our usual fish patty, aseptic juices, so those are juice boxes, those are pretty short supply. Our regular tortilla chips from Purim, they don't have enough employees there to make tortilla chips, and so that line's been shut down for the whole school year so far. Some disposables. And of course, we've done things to kind of avoid all of these kind of glitches that we have. In this last year, we've also replaced some major pieces of equipment with more needing it on the horizon. We replaced a range in Kennedy School that was from the 60s that has been dying the last 15 years. The pilot lights go out, it was all rusty inside. It wasn't very accurate. We bought one that replaced that entirely. That added a 36-inch griddle top to our arsenal of tools, so that gives us a lot more flexibility to do some things here coming up. We also replaced a convection oven that was made in 1976 that wasn't working. Hasn't really worked the last 10 years. It would have incomplete combustion, and so it would fill up with carbon inside of it because it wasn't burning right. And it got to a point where not only our maintenance wouldn't work on it, but the people we hire from off campus, they wouldn't touch it anymore. They're like, we can't do anything, this victim is done. Let's see. We replaced warmers that were from the 70s with modern ones that have Dutch doors. You can see what's in them, you know what you got, it makes it easier to manage your food. We replaced the shelving in the walk-in cooler in the freezer. It's now as something that is, it increases our storage volume, it reduces our effort in rotating product, and all of the shelves and everything all come out and they all run through the dish machine. So it can't be any easier in maintaining that and keeping that clean up to the health department standards. We're currently out getting ready to price out some 3-door coolers. We have 2 of them that are on their last legs. One is like from the 50s, and the other one, our repair guy says, is that we're just lucky that it's made it this long. I also have a convection oven at Kennedy that it's a 2-stack convection oven. One, the door doesn't work, and the other one, the motor doesn't work. And so that is also slated for replacement. Other miscellaneous things, we earned another 544 grant to put up graphics at Lincoln. We'll be getting those up here shortly. That facility is going to be called the Otter Pup Cafe, and the folks there at Kip and those guys have really put together a fantastic piece of art for that. It's going to be a really nice thing. We've added a sharing station at KSS to encourage the students not to waste food. It's also a necessary step when KSS starts collecting organics at some point after January as part of the Otter Tail County Waste Program grant that we've received and we're participating in as a pilot site. Our meal counts at kindergarten through 4 are just under pre-COVID. McKinley is about the same. Adams is running about 25 under. Cleveland is running about 40 less than they typically did before COVID. We're also, Roosevelt and Kennedy are actually more. They're running higher this year. And that includes 400 breakfasts a day at Kennedy School, which that number used to be more like about 80 once upon a time. We switched chemical providers this year, which was a good move, as Ecolab has found all kinds of issues neglected by the previous provider. The machines haven't run better. They're operating at peak efficiency and using the least amount of chemical that we need. Everyone that we hired this year has been amazing. A lot of credit goes to Elaine over there, who sorts and organizes and gets everything lined up. And honestly, the folks that we hired, if we would have had piles of people to choose from, we probably would have still hired them. They were all great, and they have been real go-getters this year. Administratively, I'm focused this year on making sure we have a clean administrative review, which is a review we're supposed to get about every 4 to 5 years, but because of COVID, we're kind of off cycle a little bit. But I'm pretty confident that we'll get reviewed next year, and my mission here is to give us a totally clean audit. So I'm updating recipe files, I'm updating product formulation statements that proves how much bread and grain or meat alternative is in a particular product. Also, I have to have all the little labels from all the little boxes that talk about the calories and sodium and all that. We'll also be working on reimbursable meals, and I'm planning to have a pre-review audit this spring, if I can get that organized. Last but not least, I'm abundantly available. I have 2 email addresses, they're on the menus. We have a Facebook page, we have Messenger on Facebook, we have a website. I have like 3 phone numbers here in the district. I watch those phones all the time, so anytime anybody needs to reach me for anything, I'm pretty much watching them. So if anyone has questions, we were talking about contacts earlier for these folks. My contacts also abundantly available at the district. If you have a question or complaint or compliment, we like those too, that you'd like to pass on to Otter Food Services, those are the venues that you can use. And then I'll open it up. I think I have a minute or 2 left. Open it up to any questions from the board. I don't know where to go, but
Yeah, Lance, I more so just have a comment. I just think you're doing a fantastic job.
Well, thank you, sir.
It wouldn't have even crossed my mind that you're storing up food in Roosevelt, so we're not part of those headlines like you mentioned at the beginning. I mean, even going back to how you fed people this summer, you know, for COVID, every time you give a report, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I never would have thought of that. So I just wanted to publicly say thank you. You're doing a great job.
Well, thank you and you're welcome.
Yeah, Lance, as a treasurer, I always like to look at financials, and I think that you've made some good investments in capital, and at the same time you're adding to the bottom line. If we were a business, you're doing great, and I just want to thank you for not only spending some money and improving things and giving more choices for our students, but also and also healthier. But I think financially it's been a good thing too, and I appreciate that.
You're welcome and thank you. Blake and his team up there with the finance folks, they do a lot of work for me to make sure that I can stay on top of the budget and stay on top of my expenditures. And I can't do any of this without the folks upstairs in the district office, for sure.
Describe breakfast for lunch.
So breakfast for lunch are reimbursable entrees. Typically a breakfast entree would not be reimbursable in a lunch scenario because there are less calories. So essentially a school lunch has to have 5 basic components. It's fluid, milk, or a suitable replacement. It's vegetable, it's fruit, it's bread and grain, meat alternative. It gets a lot more complicated than that. There's a breakfast, or the fruits have to be different colors, and we have to offer it. But breakfast is typically either 2 bread and grain, or 1 meat alternative, 1 bread and grain. A breakfast burrito would be 1 bread and grain, 1 meat alternative. So in order to serve a breakfast burrito at lunchtime, we would either have to make our own breakfast burrito to make sure that they were big enough, or we would serve 2. And so we have things like pancakes and sausage, waffles and sausage, we have ham, egg, and cheese croissants, we have sausage, egg, and cheese croissants, we do our own Eggo muffin, it's like a McMuffin, and then on Fridays it's 2 slices of breakfast pizza, or it's 2 slices or 2 pancake on a stick, and that's what creates that 2 meat, 2 bread and grain that lunch requires. And then we also have a cold breakfast that was really popular last year that we've kept. And that's a cold cereal, a string cheese, a cheese, like a Cheez-It cracker or a goldfish graham or something like that, and a string cheese. Yogurt, I already said it's string cheese. So that has its 2 meat alternative, 2 bread and grain, and it's cold. So kids will eat maybe the yogurt and the string cheese, and they might have the cereal like after the next period. They might just be eating that in the hallway as they go to their next class. Some kids take milk and eat it as a breakfast. What's great about it is it just gives a non-traditional lunch option for these kids. We probably wouldn't have come up with this if we hadn't gone through so many of those breakfast packs last year. We were doing like 50, 55 of those a day. And that certainly, along with the other things, warrants its own format. We do about 65 to 70 there. That's slowly growing. It grows by about 5 every week, 5 or 10. So they're just starting to find it. They're burning out on pizza or whatever it is that they were eating before and start migrating to the other formats. But basically, it's just a reimbursable breakfast served at lunch.
And then one other question about the kitchen over at Roosevelt. Was that grant funded or are we doing those replacements out of the?
I know. I don't think any of that is out of food service.
Okay.
Until we go through the renovation process for the main kitchen. Blake or Jeff might be able to speak on those. The work that they're doing over at Roosevelt is not attached to us. That's their own, the community kitchen and that kind of stuff is all.
Right.
But as a result of that, it's kind of closing down on the space that we're using, and it desperately needs to be renovated. To give you an idea, a steam table. Raise your hand if you've ever used a steam table. Has anybody ever used a steam table? Right. So basically, a steam table is a burner with a pan that has water, and you set another pan in there, and you set it to the proper temperature to keep it from all boiling out. So at Roosevelt, forget the pan, forget the water, and then just put raw natural gas flame shooting up from underneath this cabinet on this plate of steel that kind of goes around a little bit, and that heats the bottom of the pan that you're putting in. I'm not going to say that it's probably from the 40s, but I got plenty of stuff in that kitchen that says like 1946 on it. So when you have stuff like that and the gas is always going out and it doesn't hold the food safely, you can only just put stuff in and just hurry and serve it and get it back into the warmer again, it's time to replace those kind of things. And that actually won't be so bad because that's not a preparation kitchen, that's just a serving kitchen. So beyond that, I don't know any more about how far they've gotten or how they're doing that.
Any other questions from the board?
I just want to say, I feel like your enthusiasm is absolutely what makes the program successful, and we're grateful to have you.
Thank you.
And see this program evolve since you've been here.
Thank you, I appreciate that. Again, I am just the conductor. The real talent is in the orchestra, and they play beautifully every day for us, starting in the wee hours of the morning while a lot of us are still asleep. And they make it easy for me to stand up here and look as good as I do. So I appreciate them and I appreciate you guys.
Very well, thank you. Next board report will come from Scott Colbeck, the elementary principal at McKinley and Adams. Good evening.
Good evening. There's probably good Lance left because I was going to compliment him as well. He's had almost too many compliments tonight, but I was going to compliment him on his the addition of orange chicken to the menu. It's pretty awesome, and for $4 a day, I feel like I eat pretty well when I eat school lunches. Although one day it was really difficult for me to talk a 5-year-old into trying the orange chicken. He had never seen it before, and there were some tears. I didn't do so well with that. But, so good evening. Thank you for letting me come and report this month. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about parent-teacher conferences. We finished those up about a week ago. And we have, between McKinley and Adams schools, grades kindergarten, first and second grade, we have 535 students. Of those 535 students, right now we're only sitting at 34 of them that we weren't able to conference with. So 501 of our kids had a parent or guardian or grandparent that conferenced with the teacher. 501 out of 535 is 93%. Our teachers do a really good job of continuing to reach out to those 34 families to see if we can't try to conference with each and every one of them. Being a realist, we won't be able to conference with every one of them, but I know before it's all said and done, that percentage of 93% will probably look closer to 95%. And then I wanted to thank our parent-teacher organization for feeding our staff on the Friday of conferences. So a week ago, this past Friday, we're really spoiled by our parent-teacher organization. They take really good care of us, and that's just one way that they do that. So they provided food at all of the elementary schools, and it was just really nice for our staff. I think we heard Chairperson Cole mention the 544 Education Foundation awarding $20,000 in grants. Adams School was the recipient of 3 grants, and I just wanted to mention those. We had a second grade teacher complete an application, and her classroom was awarded $650 for math games and manipulatives. And so that, I believe, was Mrs. Van Herp's class at Adams. We had another classroom, Carly Kozak. She was our new special ed teacher at Adams School. We added a second special ed room, and she received $787 for games and toys for her new classroom. And then, this is a big one, $2,000 was awarded to Adams School for 20 Kindle Fire tablets and cases to run the Dash robots. So 3 nice grants to Adams School from the foundation. So I believe this was the 20th time our Education Foundation awarded grants out to our staff. So that's just fantastic. I've been emailing back and forth with Dr. Randy Kempfer recently. He is a noon Rotarian, and next week he's going to recruit a few other noon Rotarians, and they're going to come to Adams School, and they're going to go into every second grade classroom and distribute to every second grade student an Andy and Elmer apple dumpling book to every second grade kid. This book that they give out promotes the message of the Rotary 4-Way Test Award, which is to treat each other with kindness and respect. So thank you very much to Dr. Randy Kempfer for organizing this effort, and to the noon Rotary group. And then I wanted to just highlight tonight a little bit, you know, in our school district we have a school resource officer, a full-time school resource officer who spends all of his time basically between Kennedy and Roosevelt. But some years ago, Chief Kyle Bergeron thought, you know what, it might be nice to take somebody who has an 8-hour day shift and have them devote 4 of their 8 hours to the 3 elementary schools. And so this year, just like last year, Officer Dustin Kitzman comes and goes from the 3 elementary schools of McKinley, Adams, and Cleveland. And he's just really good with little kids. And he has 3 children of his own. His wife is a kindergarten teacher. I mean, why wouldn't he be good with little kids? But yeah, he just does such a nice job for us. And one thing I notice is he will, from time to time, email out a grade level of teachers or teachers in a specific building and say, hey, I want to come visit your classroom. I want to come read a story to your students. I want to read a story about safety, talk about safety with your kids. And he always leaves it up to the individual teacher to participate or not. They always do. They always do. And he's just really good at that. So we really appreciate him. He's very visible. He's in the cafeteria. He's in the gym after school. He's out by the buses. So when you talk about community policing, I just think about how can you grow up in this town, right? Be a student around these guys, and then not grow up to just really appreciate what they do. So kudos to our local police department for putting their resources to our kids in our schools. I've been recently communicating with our high school orchestra director, Mr. Craig Anderson. We are trying to figure out how to get our high school orchestra back into our elementary schools, set up in the gymnasium, and give some concerts for our small kids. I mean, we think that's maybe one of the reasons why we have such a healthy orchestra in our district. Kids can start orchestra in 4th grade, in previous years. They've seen the orchestra play for them in kindergarten, first, second, and third grade. Of course, we missed out on that last year. We probably don't feel comfortable bringing the high school orchestra in our elementary schools. When the high school orchestra sets up, it takes a good full one half of the gym. And then we just probably are not going to bring 300 plus kids and squeeze them into the other half of a small elementary gym. So we're trying to get creative. Maybe there will be shorter performances, more of them, and then maybe we bring 3 or 4 classes at a time into the gym and just kind of spread out a little bit. And then lastly, I just wanted to recognize a number of people. From time to time, it's no secret, there's a shortage on substitute teachers, not just in Fergus Falls, but anywhere you talk to. But we have a number of people in our district who, when I need to go to them and ask them to step into a classroom and cover a classroom, they just are willing to do that. And that's our Title I lead teacher, Mike Evanhole, another Title I teacher, Jessica Molstry. We have a Title I para at McKinley, Dee Dee Carpenter, and then our ESL teacher, Taylor Norberg. They have all been willing to go into classrooms and help when necessary. Even one day we had, I believe it was the Friday of homecoming week, our child study specialist, Diane Marble, just didn't have a lot to do in her normal job on that particular day because a lot of kids and staff weren't available to her. So she reached out to Mrs. Rund and myself and said, hey, if you need me in a classroom on Friday, I can help out. And we needed her in a classroom on Friday. So thank you to Mike Evanhole, Jessica Molstry, Dee Dee Carpenter, Taylor Norberg, and Diane Marble for their willingness to help us in times of need. So with that, I would entertain any questions from the board.
It doesn't appear anyone has any questions. Thanks for the report.
Okay. And next time I'm going to be as enthusiastic as that food service guy.
Yeah, and if you had, a little bit more.
Yeah, or I'll come in a costume of some sort.
Maybe Zero the hero.
Pretend I'm a superhero or something.
Maybe Zero the hero could give it.
He's wanted to come and give a report. He just wasn't sure how it would go over.
Thank you. Next, we'll hear from Tindy Run, our elementary principal at Cleveland. Good evening.
Good evening. It is Friendship Week at Cleveland this week, and this has become an annual week that we look forward to, where we're recognizing the values and skills that go into building friendships and relationships. And today it was Jersey Day, and the theme today was Be a Good Sport. And so we had kids and staff wearing sport jerseys throughout the building and just celebrating friendship. Katie Yagi is our school-based social worker, and she heads up this week and coordinates events and the special days. And this week she's going into classes and presenting lessons or working with students in lessons regarding friendship skills, some self-regulation skills. They're also learning a new yoga pose, a new relaxation technique, and so they're practicing that as well. And each lesson that she provides throughout the school year, they're going to practice a new yoga pose or maybe some breathing techniques, just some calming strategies. So we are very appreciative of Katie Yagi for heading this special week up and creating lots of fun. Throughout the week, tomorrow we are going to, Friends Make Everything Brighter is the theme, and we're going to be walking around with lots of neon and bright colors. Wednesday, we're going to be wearing sweats with the theme Positive Friendship Choices Aren't a Sweat. Thursday, it's going to be hats off to great friends, and we will get to wear our favorite hats during the school day. And on Friday, we're going to look at the Bootiful and our Otters Maroon and Gold, and then at the end of the day have some fun activities just to have some fun with the Halloween theme at the end of the day. So we look forward to this week every year, so it's a neat annual tradition at Cleveland. And I too wanted to just reflect on our fall conferences. We had outstanding participation with families at Cleveland, and our overall percentage of attendance was 97%. So it was just outstanding. Of all, we had 10 sections that had 100% participation, and I kind of tallied up how many conferences were held via Google Meet, and there were 44 conferences that were held via Google Meet, and several of the parents made note that they really appreciated that being an option this go around. One parent in particular, her spouse was out of town and she had her hands full of children, and she was able to conference with all of the teachers, where it would have been quite a challenge to schedule with those kids at home. So it worked very well, and the teachers reported that it was very fine facilitating those as well. So good option for us to keep in place. And again, Mr. Colbeck mentioned our Otter PTO. I too just wanted to express the appreciation of teachers for the meal that they have volunteers sign up to bring to school. They set it up early in the day, so it was convenient for teachers to go in and have a nice warm bowl of soup and sandwiches and plenty of treats as well. So thank you very much to our Otter PTO. Cleveland had 3 teachers that submitted grant requests. Ms. Kinraid submitted a request for some books that highlight social emotional learning. Teachers had input as to different titles that they would really like to see added to the Cleveland Library, and they are busy ordering those right now. So there will be a shelf full of the books featuring social emotional learning that will be available to all teachers to check out and use in their classrooms. Ms. Lillis submitted a grant for some STEM activities that 3rd and 4th grade classrooms can use. That was fully funded, and so we're appreciative of that opportunity. And then the Prairie Science class sections frequently use binoculars when they're out in the field to zoom in and see some things up close, or when they're doing their observations. And there were several that were in need of repair. They've been used over the last few years. So they were awarded a grant for some new binoculars. And then lastly, I just wanted to recognize that we're only 2 weeks away from the end of first quarter. The first quarter ends on Friday, November 5th. And at the elementary level, we send home progress reports with students. And so parents can anticipate receiving their child's first quarter progress report on Friday, November 12th. So that came up quickly. And with that, I conclude my report for this evening.
Any questions for Principal Ron?
I don't have any questions, but I do have a comment. I was able to accompany Miss Lillis's class out to Prairie Wetlands about a week and a half ago, and there were 3 of us parents there, grandparents, and it's a great deal. I would encourage anybody to, if they have the opportunity to do that, to go and hang out with the kids and walk around the prairie for 2 hours. It was kind of cold that day, but it was. We learned a lot about seeds and the wildlife out there, and the Fish and Wildlife folks that work there do a great job. So thanks for that, for what you do there.
Very good, thank you. And we'll hear from Ivan Hurst, our middle school principal. Good evening.
All right, good evening, everyone. We have parent-teacher conferences as well, and I want to just report those numbers. We have two different formats. In our 5th and 6th grade, we schedule the conferences with their homeroom teachers, but then in 7th and 8th grade, we do student-led conferences. And the numbers that I'm seeing, especially in the middle school, the 7th and 8th grade, that's really a big benefit. So in our 5th and 6th grade, we had 91% of conferences held. And we had quite a handful of parents just opt out, so that number probably could be adjusted slightly more positively. And then our 7th and 8th grade, we had 76% of our students conference, and the students lead that conference on a template and explain their strengths and weaknesses in front of their parents, and the teacher helps facilitate that. And that was the first experience for me and my 7th grader, and she was really quiet. And she's not usually really quiet. And the teacher thought the same thing. So we were all confused by her. I want to take the opportunity to thank the PTO as well. Really wonderful support between that and the foundation, a community that values education, and was a draw for myself and my family to come here. Those are the types of things that make this a really great place to be. Homecoming week was just 2 weeks ago. We had a fun week of dressing up. That's a big deal as we search for our outfits and so on. But the part that I take away from that is that it's a fun spirit week for kids, but it's a morale builder for our faculty as they get the spirit and enjoy that as well. So we did enjoy homecoming. Miss Ashley Sands put on the middle school variety show last week with an afternoon performance on Wednesday and an evening performance on Tuesday. And so I don't know that I could get up in front of everyone. I realize I'm doing that right now, but those young people are super confident and are ready to show off. And I was backstage helping with crowd control, and my takeaway there, it felt like a marathon. And if you've ever been to a marathon, it's not a lot of tired people. It's actually a lot of upbeat, super positive, happy people. And that's what I saw back there. When they were done, they would go back and, good job, way to go, or you can do it. It was really hope for the future, everyone. We have great hope for the future. We had our Envirothon, middle school Envirothon is already wrapped up for the year. Miss LaBoy and Miss Holt took about 25 students to that event. And upon the return to KSS, they stormed the middle school office and they had to show off their goods, which was second place for the one team. So they were pretty proud of that. You know, these are the types of experiences that kids remember. Not only earning a strong place, but having those experiences with the bus ride and enjoying each other's company and similar interests. And I think we all find that in our personal lives and probably professional lives as well. Knowledge Bowls also started. Mr. Ahrens is our middle school Knowledge Bowl advisor. I hate to brag, but in the first meet we took first, second, and third, and 11th. But first, second, and third at the first meet of the year. So they were, again, they're having success, and I told Mr. Ahrens not to come home without more of those results. So the message has been sent. Probably my last comment revolves around just the way that we've all stepped up in our building, not only our building, but our school with subbing, and you know, we've had some really interesting situations, but we're doing it. And credit to the staff and the faculty for doing whatever it takes to get the job done. So it's been a pleasure. That concludes my report.
Good, thank you. Any questions or comments for Mr. Hurst, Principal Hurst? All right, thank you. And now we'll welcome to the podium Mark Anderson, our high school principal. Good evening, Mr. Anderson.
Good evening. I hope you guys are all having a good day. A couple of things. I'll start with our enrollment. I'm happy to say we're up 13 students since the last time we reported at the high school, up 1 at the LC, and our high school at the IQ Academy is up 83 students. So what I heard from Assistant Principal Johnson is we're onboarding about 5 to 7 students a week right now. So they're quite busy over there. Fergus High School, I'd like to first thank Catherine Henderson and Jana Johnson for their work at the career fair. We had that last 2 weeks ago. It was absolutely amazing. We had a lot of kids in the building doing a lot of different things than they've done in the past. And those two really put things together for us and supported our teachers in presentations and student schedules. So we were able to make that a successful opportunity. Our 9th through 11th graders got the experience of career and college readiness and should be ready for registration with a little more help from us at the high school. Our seniors were able to actually get a 3-page document that they could fill in and hand over to a teacher for a recommendation, which I hear is happening quite frequently right now. So I'm not sure if our teachers are happy or if our students are happier because they had the document to give to them for their letters of recommendation, not just for college, military, and work after high school. Unity Day happened last week on Wednesday. We had an assembly. We had Fergus Falls High School is going to be a unified Special Olympic high school. 30 students that are in our Honor Leadership Academy helped Eliza Robertson put that program on at the end of the day. And at the end of the day, they were asked, the other students in the building, to sign up if they wanted to support that group moving forward. We have 104 now additional students that are going to be part of that unified high school for us. So that was huge for us. We're excited. They did a great job. Staff was able to wear orange that day here for the high school, so we started that off. Other things are coming from that group as we go. The other piece that's happening is our regular ed kids in that program, in our special Olympics Unified School, and our SPED kids are actually going out November 5th for bowling. So the kids that were there first, they're going to do that. Other activities and shared opportunities will happen as we go down that path. One of the things we have started at the high school is Auditors of the Week. A 9th, 10th, 11th, and 12th grader are being recognized by teachers, and we send it to the paper. The paper actually has sponsors now, so now I really have to come through and make sure we have 4 kids each week that are being recognized. So we will make sure that happens. The kids are really excited when they come. Not always to my office when they think they've done something wrong, but then get the reward of being Auditor of the Week. We also have Veterans Day being planned. I've been part of that process with myself and John and Shane, the 2 APs. It will be November 11th here at Kennedy High School in our little gym from 10 to 11 o'clock. Quite a bit of work is going into that. A lot of students will be speaking that day. Some of them don't know that yet. We have a speaker coming. We're working on that piece, trying to find someone who will speak for us that is connected to our high school or middle school. And we also have Voice of Democracy and the Patriots Pen being given out that day to our students. Registration and meetings have been happening with myself and Mr. Tilke with our departments, talking about our course book updates, adding some pictures, what new courses might be coming, what courses might need to be taken off the books. So we're having some pretty open conversations about that right now. Our conferences weren't quite as well attended as the middle school and elementary. Our staff was asked to have at least a minimum of 12 students that they needed to reach out to and have parents come either virtually or in person. So we're working on that piece. They're still working on getting more of those conversations going and opportunities. We also had the opportunity to have our high school staff fed from a parent group, and they also brought the ALC staff to help feed them also. Our activities are in section play right now. So some of our teams are doing quite well. Some have been eliminated, and some things are going on this week. So Derek is getting fall sports ending here, hopefully not right away, but in the next couple of weeks. And then runner sports will be happening here in the next month. So we're excited about that and seeing some of the other kids who maybe haven't gone out, come out, and hopefully the career fair and that little 30-minute opportunity Derek had was able to get more kids up for winter sports for us. The ALC is having their career fair this week. They're modifying it from what we did, so it looks similar but very different. Meet the needs of the ALC versus the needs of our high school students here. They did have 66 conferences out of 88 students scheduled, which is 75% of the students over there. 66 of those conferences, they had 58 parents and students attend. They were 45 minutes in length. So they had almost 90% of their kids who signed up to attend their conferences, and they were student-led. Students voiced their discussion of what was going on in school for them. They're having their advisory pumpkin carving this week. They're also going to the ropes course that was rained out 2 weeks ago. They're excited about that. I think the enthusiasm is getting pretty high over there for that. They were disappointed when they had that canceled. In November, parents are being invited back in to do the ALC pie contest. And they have had 2 students of the week. They're also part of that process. And those 2 young ladies have been extremely excited and couldn't wait for their picture to be in the paper. The IQ Academy, the middle school and high school staff is focused on the monthly SELs. Right now, their month theme is Possible, Dream Big. So they're really working on that piece and putting it into their curriculum and into the content that they're delivering with the students and in their weekly homeroom meetings. Ryan's working with them also on reviewing some curriculum and making those updates as they go through. And I also would like to thank the 544 Foundation for the things that the high school has gotten, not just from the grants, but since the beginning of school. And that concludes my report. Any questions?
Very good. Where are they doing the ropes course?
I should have read that too.
No, I mean, I just was curious.
It's at Lake Beauty Bible Camp in Long Prairie. So it's about an hour and a half ride out. So they're looking forward to it. They've lived in the neighborhood and keep the kids there. So I think the buses are coming. Our parents are picking them up a little later so they can enjoy it.
Great.
I know you mentioned all sports, but are there some other activities that you want to give us tips?
Yes.
So what's happening right now?
Yes, our play is coming. They're getting ready to present to us. Thank you for that. That should hit you right in the face. The kids are out down here practicing every night. It's great to walk across the music area if they're not on stage. If you watch what's going on, you're kind of looking and going, oh my gosh, what's happening? But it should be interesting. The kids are excited. We have a group that stays here until 5:30 every night. The music that was playing before we came. So they've done a nice job too. And our jazz band
Very good. Any other questions or comments for?
I just want to make sure that I'm still on the list for the pie judging. Be my third consecutive year. I have lots of experience.
I'll make sure Kristen goes along.
All right. Thank you. And now we'll turn to Superintendent Drake for his board report.
All right, good evening. Just I guess a quick update on the Roosevelt kitchen project. So originally we had it come from Community Ed about expanding space in the kitchen to have a commercial kitchen available for instructional purposes for the students at Roosevelt, but also for Community Ed cooking-based courses. And so we did take a good look at that project. We did do some asbestos abatement in preparation for doing some work over there. But with COVID-19 impact on materials and supplies, the original estimate on what that project would cost really did not end up panning out. It was 4 or 5 times what we thought it would originally be, so that has been shelved temporarily. There are some aspects of the kitchen, as Mr. Wells mentioned, that do need some updating at some point in the future. So that will come up as part of our overall discussion on facilities and where to go with some of the district's aging buildings. I wanted to express my appreciation to all the work of the faculty and staff, both in continuing to adjust to changing conditions, for their flexibility and for their professionalism. And I greatly appreciate the community coming out for parent-teacher conferences. These are really important connections that we have with our families, talking about the successes of our students. I wanted to talk a little bit tonight about some work that's going on with some county agencies and the schools, and it's related to student success in attendance and school engagement. And so a lot of work has been done through the Otter County Attorney's Office, through Family Services, and with the schools and the Family Collaborative about taking a proactive approach to students that are truant and trying to do more efforts on the early intervention side to make sure that we assist the family and support the student and help them get back on the right track. So we did sign an agreement to work with the CAMP program. It's targeting students 12 to 17 years old. The school plays a very fundamental role on the screening side, identifying children that have attendance issues, doing some early interventions in efforts to try to get them back, help get them back on track. But this program is voluntary through the County Attorney's Office, and it's something that we're excited about trying with a little different approach. The program is designed to last up to 90 days initially, and a student could graduate from the program at 90 days, or if circumstances would warrant, they could be extended for 45 days after that. If it's not being successful, then the student would be withdrawn from the program, and more traditional approaches would be pursued after that. We had our first DACRAC meeting of the school year last week, and both presenters really did a marvelous job. Sally Despard on world languages and Melissa Amundsen on early childhood. And Christy Sullivan did a really nice job facilitating that first meeting as our new curriculum coordinator. We had a presentation with a few of our staff and school board members from Johnson Controls. They evaluated our facilities based on a number of needs, some of them being energy efficiency. This is going to capture some of their bigger areas of recommendation. First of all, the board and the community are well aware of our cooling issues between KSS, Roosevelt, and the hockey arena. They gave us 2 recommendations, or 2 options coming out of that report. Both included basically divesting in a shared system and each having an independent system to meet separately the needs of the hockey arena and separately the needs of KSS. Option number 1, it was their preferred option, with ground source heat pumps being utilized at KSS and the hockey arena relying on the anhydrous ammonia chiller that's already in place and making ice for them right now. Option number 1A was a more traditional approach, again decoupling the chilled water production from the ammonia chiller from KSS in the hockey arena, but going with a more standard air conditioning system. Some other things that they looked at, many of these recommendations would coincide with an analysis that we had commissioned through Otter Tail Power, and an independent engineer that looked at our energy usage. Converting our remaining fluorescent lighting to LED has very, very quick paybacks when you consider the rebates available. Indoor air quality and filtration was one that they brought up. This would increase through MERV 13 the amount of filtration. This does cause some additional issues for the district. The sizing of our HVAC system would have to be adjusted, and then in order to push air through the additional filtration system, that would require more energy usage. So there are some pros and cons there in improving the air quality. VFDs are fairly common because you can operate those more energy efficiently. And then they recommended a cover over the pool area to reduce the amount of evaporation and humidity. A couple other things, we have DX cooling units on the roof of Roosevelt. They use a refrigerant that's no longer manufactured anymore, so it's expensive to come by and it's getting less plentiful. So this is an issue that we will have to address probably sooner rather than later. And then again, on the VFD side. So those were some of the major findings from that Johnson control study. And I would say, other than the anhydrous system on the chiller side, aligned very closely with the recommendations we'd already received through Otter Tail Power. We talked a lot, several of the principals mentioned the Fergus Falls 544 Education Foundation grants, over $28,000 worth of grants for classroom use, and those are listed up there. My apologies that the font may be a little on the small side, but these grants really make a huge positive impact on the quality of the educational experience our students are receiving in the district and in the classroom. We're appreciative of LB Homes. They are going to be donating a Black Hill spruce, and that will be planted this coming Wednesday at about noon out at the Lincoln School. Exact location will be determined here in the next day. And then we will have our first district quarterly health and safety committee meeting this coming Wednesday. And then lastly, social emotional learning. The SEL committee had its first meeting tonight. This stems from work and recommendations coming from the strategic plan on how to best support our students emotionally and teaching them self-regulation skills. The goal of this committee will be to identify our primary needs and goals, and we will look at that elementary versus middle school, secondary, and setting our goals in place, and then doing a review of curriculum options that are out there, and eventually making a curriculum recommendation to the DACRAC committee, and ultimately to the Board of Education. So that concludes my report. Happy to entertain any questions.
Anyone with questions for the superintendent?
Just a quick question about this committee. Do you know exactly that it's going to be used?
We'll meet approximately every 2 weeks, right after school, 3:30 to 4:30 roughly. And then because there are about 70 different curriculum options out there for SEL, we will probably divide that committee up and do some subcommittee work in reviewing curriculum options.
Sure. How hard is it going to be, do you think, to have a curriculum that goes K-12? Because I know right now there's different opinions of, having one that's for the littler kids and then one that's different for the big kids. Out of those 70 curriculum, do you see a lot of them that are K-12, or is it always divided, elementary, high school type?
Yep, so I would say most it's more rare to find one that's K-12. Most of them tend to be grade bands. And so one of the conversations we had briefly this afternoon is it better to have a K-12 curriculum and have a common language across your entire district, or is it more productive to individually look at the needs of each of those, whether it's elementary, middle school, or high school, and picking the best curriculum independently, knowing that we may have some language pieces to familiarize both as a student and staff going forward. So most of the districts that are doing this work already in our area seem to have gone independently and looked at what's best for the elementary and then what's best for the secondary separately.
Any other questions?
Jeff, I know you were talking about the lighting, and I think you mentioned right at the end, but Auditor Power does have pretty generous rebates on those variable speed drives. I think it's $40 to $60 for horsepower. And then you save on the energy as well, and then they save on the startup voltage and things like that. So it's I know we've really had good luck replacing our lighting and enjoying the benefits of the rebates as well as the reduced energy. But the variable speed drives are a really big deal too. So
Yeah,
thanks
yes.
for following up.
Yeah, you're very welcome. All right, thank you.
All right, thank you, Superintendent Drake. We'll move on to our general consent items. And for consideration in this motion are several items. First of all, our minutes from the October 11th, 2021 and October 20th, 2021 school board meetings. And then we'll have some personnel items to consider, and I'll turn that over to our HR Director, Elaine Janke.
Good evening, everyone. Just a few items tonight that I'm requesting for approval on. Christy Edmond and Katrina Schumacher. They're currently employed with us in the food service department, but there's a position change for both of those, along with a certified staff hire, Deborah Kloster, a long-term substitute as an elementary teacher at a per science class, and that would be effective November 8th through the end of the school year. So I would request for approval on these personnel changes.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion to approve the general consent items?
I'll make that motion.
And a second?
I'll second.
Thank you. Any discussion on the general consent? All in favor of approving, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. That is approved. And in a very unusual situation, we have no old or new business to conduct. And so that will conclude our board meeting agenda for this evening. Our next regular school board meeting will be held on Monday, November 15th at 5:15, likely in the Otter Community Room, but alternately would be in here if we need the space. The work session will follow, and we have several items on the work session: a city tax abatement discussion, facility assessment from Johnson Controls, a facility lease discussion, and then COVID-19 mitigation. So with that, I would look for a motion to adjourn the meeting.
So moved.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, any discussion on adjournment? All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. And we are adjourned. Thank you very much.